take care of it. Of course, there was no gravel. In 1916, is that where I am now? Yeah. The National Good Roads Act passed in Congress. And the leader of this was the Alabama Senator, John Bankhead. And as long as he lived, that act was called the Bankhead Act. And that summer, President Woodrow Wilson signed a bill for the Federal Aid Highway Program with federal-state cooperation. And I suppose that's what we're still doing now, isn't it? It's the same thing that began in 1916. But it was 1919 before the road programs really began in Hempstead County. Now remember, at this time we didn't have any state highway department. It was still back in the counties. And the one where there were several districts formed, these had to go through the legislature. But the one that was approved here was from Emmett to Hope to Fulton. And this became part of that Bankhead Highway. So that was very important for us. And remember, they couldn't borrow money. They had to get money some way. So I guess I think they assessed people for that. That was the same year, 1919, was the same year that there were meetings all across the South to determine the route of what was going to be the first Southern Transcontinental Highway. And it was to be named the Bankhead Highway. Okay, that was going on. And we knew it was coming through Arkansas. But the big deal at this particular point in time was, would it go through Oklahoma down into Texas, or would it go by Fulton down into Texas? Well, at the last minute, the president of the Missouri Pacific Railway sent a telegram saying that the railway bridge at Fulton could be used for the highway if necessary. So we won. The route through Fulton was chosen, and work was begun, truly begun on the highway. I thought we might have some military men here today that kind of help. Do we have any? No military men today. Oh, yeah, okay. I found that there was a War Department convoy that went through, that tried out this road. Actually, I think the reason for even wanting this transcontinental highways was in case of war, we had a means of taking troops and equipment across the country besides the railroad. So they tested it. And this is a list of the equipment that I found, which I find fascinating, though I don't know a lot about military. There were 5 Dodge touring cars, 2 Cadillac touring cars, and then there were 34 trucks of all denominations. Packard, Garford, Dodge, you name it. An ambulance, a kitchen trailer. What is a Cleveland trailer?
Tow behind trailer.
It's a what?
Tow behind trailer.
Oh, okay. 2 motorcycles. I guess they just let people know they were coming. And then 2 motor transport companies in Warstream. I don't know how many people that would be, but they had 34 trucks, so I guess they could haul people, couldn't they?
Yeah, we had a couple hundred people.
Couple hundred, okay. And then a service unit at Warstream. What would that be? I don't know what the service unit would be.
Cups and laundry.
Oh, okay. There you go. And they had a headquarters motor company, an engineers detachment, a medical detachment, and a signal corps detachment. Man, that was some kind of a convoy. And I guess they had to camp out along the way, didn't they? There were no hotels, no... my imagination went wild when I read that. I couldn't imagine it, really.
They camping out midway?
Oh, yeah, camping out. Yeah, it wasn't camping out, was it? Yeah, I believe it was midway.
Same thing, right?
Yeah. In 1920, there had been an editorial in what was then the Star of Hope. And it said, with the completion of the county lap of this great highway and the starting of traffic, there's going to be a growing demand for a bridge across Red River at Fulton. The antiquated method of crossing the river will not serve traffic with such a splendid highway. So the action began. Now, work was completed on this on the Bankhead Highway in 1921. In January, they published a book It's the authentic road map and tourist guide of the Bankhead Highway, and it has from Washington to San Diego, price $1.50. That was a steal, wasn't it? Anyway, I just have to tell you where I got this. Of course, you know I have curiosity. She said so, but it's true. And somebody knew I was interested in highways, so I think it was Mary Louise Dodd McGill who sent this to me. They had Brooke Schutz died and down at Fulton, and his family, you know, had the ferry, and they were going through the old papers and found this. Excuse me, I've been using it too much. Anyway, so I really have enjoyed it. Now, I shared with you on the inside. Well, did she put up? She'll put that up next. I've got some water. Okay. I think I've used it teaching too much. There's a map on the inside of it that shows all the towns across the country. I think that is most interesting. And this is a very well-made book. I've shared with you a page or two, which is it Hope to Prescott, and if you start at the bottom and go up. And so it shows the little crooks in the road and the bridges and all those little details. Somebody spent a lot of time on that. Of course, there's advertising too. The Barlow Hotel is advertising. Okay. Well, we've had a bunch of dates, and that's part of history. I always hated memorizing dates, but I had a good teacher along the way. He'd say, well, did you know that king had an affair with so-and-so and so-and-so? And I finally learned that history is not just dates, it's people. People make history. And so I've included 2 or 3 little, I think, human interest stories. First of all, in 1908, Henry Ford began manufacturing those little Model T Fords, and they were very affordable. There's a young man standing in front of his. You can tell, man, he's really proud of that car. Besides that, in a telephone interview with Henry Cox down at Fulton, I learned a little bit more about these cars. He said that the parts were sent in a box car down to Fulton, and I don't know whether it was a hardware store or what. There sure wasn't an agency for selling cars, and then a mechanic would put them together. But I looked on the internet and I found that Henry was making them by the dozen, not by the dozen, by the 100, in his factory, as well as in Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, everywhere. He was making those little cars. Even my Grandpa Briggs, a true Scotsman and a farmer, bought one in 1925. I remember when we were riding in that car going downhill, he turned the ignition off, saved gas. The day he brought it out he took it out to the farm to show us how that little thing worked. We were all standing around watching him, and he cranked it, got inside, started it, and it rolled, and it rolled, and it rolled, and he hollered, "Whoa!" and it ran into the fence and stopped.